Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elliot Webber and welcome to episode 5 of BTCC What If, the series on my channel where of course we take certain points or moments that happened in the real life BTCC world and we see what would happen if we changed it up a little bit. And of course in this episode we are going to be seeing what if the BTC-T regulations were introduced earlier than they originally were. So let's get straight into this. Now, of course, if you don't know what the BTC-T regulations are, well, essentially they were the regulations that were introduced in 2001 as a cheaper and faster replacement to what was, of course, the beloved Super Touring era. Of course, it was officially known as the BTC-T. That is a little bit of a tongue twister to say. But of course, some of them just call them the 2000s regulations. Of course, these regulations would technically be in place from 2001 to roughly 2011, where of course, and then in 2012, the NGTC cars would properly take over the majority of the grid. But technically, these regulations only lasted until roughly 2004, 2005, as I believe in 2004, it was announced that the BTCC would also adopt the S2000 regulations, which of course were actually the regulations used by the World Touring Car Championship at the time, which of course meant that teams and manufacturers could use cars used in the World Touring Cars, also in the British Touring Car Championship. And of course, I think that was also a way to try and get some international drivers back on the grid, similar to the Super Tourers. Unfortunately, that didn't really work, aside from Fabrizio Giovanardi and whatnot. So yeah, now we just need to see what would happen if they were introduced earlier. Well, first of all, we need to figure out when we could introduce these regulations and also how we could introduce them, and also see what manufacturers would take part in these regulations. First off, we need to figure out the when, and I think roughly, I don't want to introduce these completely like super duper early because of course we still need those Super Touring car regs. So I think introducing these regulations after 1998 would be a good starting point, because of course 1998, a lot of people see the 98 season as the peak of the BTCC, one of the greatest touring car seasons ever, where we had about 12 manufacturers at one point. Of course, multiple international star drivers, ex-Formula One, ex-Le Mans drivers coming to the UK to race in this touring car championship. Of course, the 1998 season would famously be won by Rickard Rydell in his Tom Walkinshaw Racing Volvo. So yeah, I think 1999 is a great year to start this off. So yeah, now we need to figure out how we can introduce these regulations. So yeah, how can we introduce these regulations? Well, similar to the way it was in real life. I think it's essentially going to be a carbon copy of what happened in real life, introducing these regulations. And that is because to make the cars faster, to make the cars cheaper, and to make the cars a little bit more reliable as well. I think these cars were pretty reliable at the start of their regulation reign, and I think if we made the cars much more reliable than the Super Touring cars, then I think that would work for all parties, teams, drivers, etc. But of course, money is the main reason why. Of course, with these cars being much cheaper, it means we can see more teams, more cars, and hopefully more drivers. Of course, instead of having a 15 to 20 car field, we could potentially see a 20 to 25 to 30 car field, eerily similar to sort of what we had in the early 2010s when the NGTC cars were unveiled, where we were having 20 to 30 cars on the grid. And I think that would be great for racing. Having over 20 cars, I think, as we know, is a lot. Of course, now in touring car days, we don't have that 30 to 32 car grid that we're hoping to have at some point in the future again, which is why we're asking Alan Gow and TOCA just to make the current cars more cheaper to run. We need more teams and more drivers on the grid just to make the championship more affordable, please, Alan Gow. But anyway, so yeah, I think money would be a way to introduce it, to make the new regulations cheaper, which would mean, of course, manufacturers could potentially stay on into these regulations. Of course, we saw at the start of the 2001 season, we only had, I think, 3 manufacturer teams on the grid, and even then by 2002 we still only had about 5 or 6 manufacturers on the grid, which wasn't bad. I mean, to have 6 manufacturers now I think would be great for BTCC, but so yeah, I think that would be the best way to introduce the BTC regulations, and that by make them cheaper as they were. So now we need to figure out which manufacturers would stay on for this earlier new era of BTCC. Now, I'm not going to go into complete detail with how many manufacturers we're going to have. I'm not going to say which cars would they use, because to be honest, we'd be here forever if I had to explain that. So for this so-called start of the new era for this 1999 season, I think Vauxhall, Peugeot are 2 manufacturers that 1000% would stay on for this new regulation era. I think Ford would definitely stay on. I think we'd also see MG, in fact, come in earlier. I think we'd see Toyota / Lexus come back. I think that would be great. I actually think Nissan could potentially stick on as well. As for Volvo and Renault, unfortunately, I don't see them sticking around for 1999 as they did in real life. I think they would not agree with these regulations, especially Volvo, considering they would be the reigning champs. So I don't see Volvo or Renault coming back. But yeah, Vauxhall, Peugeot, MG coming in sooner, Ford, Nissan, and Toyota / Lexus, whichever one of the 2. Those would be those manufacturers that I can definitely see staying / debuting / coming back to the championship if these regulations were introduced for 1999. Again, though, you can all disagree with me if you want, which is why you should let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. This one a little bit shorter than the usual ones. We'd be here forever if I had to go completely in depth with my thoughts and theories, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think would happen if the BTC-T regulations were introduced earlier than 2001? What year would you think they would debut if they were introduced earlier? And which manufacturers do you see sticking on for this new era of BTCC? Of course, guys, if you're new around here, be sure to like this video, share with your mates as well, because it of course does help my channel grow. And of course, please press that red subscribe button. We just hit 180 subscribers last night, which means we are 20 away from 200 subscribers. Of course, hashtag road to 200. We need to get that trending somewhere. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.